Righty. So, gee, I guess it really has been a while. Um, I tried to apply like a little noise gate and stuff on my microphone so I could get rid of at least some of the mouse clicks, but probably not. There's a chance that they'll still be there because I haven't chance to tune it live. In any case, though, let's get to the purpose of this. So this is going to be a VOD review of the King's Row map that Splat requested. Um, so yeah, um, in general, you said you felt your shield was getting burnt down super fast, and you tried to make adjustments between first round attack and second defense. It was a struggle from start to finish. You know, I'm officially not a tank player, correct, but I'm sure you have tons of insight from a support perspective, correct. And just playing tank at various elos to be able to identify some things I can focus on to improve upon. Uh, yeah, yeah. Let's, so first things first, let's sort of examine our team comp. Standard, always like this. So we're running Ryan Zarya. Of course, when we think about comps, we think about sort of the ranges that sort of it's new. I don't remember being able to do this before for Reinhardt's shield, person shielding character. In any case, Ryan Zarya, generally mid to close range. They sort of favor this rush down style. A lot of the times we call this style sort of brawl, and brawl is sort of the blanket umbrella term for these compositions in which we want to get close and destroy things. But brawl isn't specifically just this. The style that I think would describe our composition more would be a rush down style. And rush is a subset sort of brawl sometimes, or a sort of a separate entity. It's generally a comp that wants to close distance fast into one another. Most brawl comps end up being rush down comps because if you think about like playing brawl into double shield, they want to set up super far away and poke your shields down and then move in a little bit on you when you're uncomfortable and out of resources. To counteract that, the brawl slash rushdown comp will have to move quickly to close the distance between them and their opponents, which would sort of qualify them for both. Just know that the terms aren't exactly mutually exclusive. As the game evolves, and even as it is now, I'm sure there are comps that we can see that are probably somewhat rushdown, but probably not quite brawl. In any case, our comp is sort of a rush comp. We've got some good mid-range presence with the McCree. Um, the Hanzo is also mid to long range, which is really good too. You guys have a combo in Grav Dragon, which is nice. Um, you have Lucio, which is always obviously key for sort of speeding your tanks in and working with them. And lastly, we have a Moira. So again, Moira is a sort of interesting support. We want to take quick engagements for her before she runs out of her healing resource, which is a really big part of Moira gameplay. Obviously, you get healing orbs as a cooldown, but you have to be thinking about the resource and how long the fight is going and how much she needs to spend on you guys as well as a tank line. Or just as non-support players in general, you know? Because the resource is for everybody, how much of it do you... It's an interesting little experiment to... In any case, as a tank though, so let's see what we're seeing. So I believe you saw a Widow. We see an Ashe now. We see Reinhardt. So one thing we already can see is snipers. And this puts us in an odd sort of spot. This is a common approach to attack King's Row a lot of the time, which is send your Widow here, they move over here. If they don't get domed, then they will move over to this right side high ground or on this little thing, and then have their sight lined over point and have their team move in and all that. So overall, nothing terribly unusual. I think in this composition, Widow is going to be our biggest threat, and of course the boosted Ashe, just because they're both really annoying and will pressure you from a long range, certainly effectively. Maybe not you as Reinhardt, but your team. So this is going to put you in an awkward spot, assuming they reach these high grounds. because their enemy team is going to want to push into you main, and if you drop your shield, either you or your team gets domed by the snipers who are up top in the top shelf. So, there are different approaches to this as well, but mostly you're going to have to hope that your DPS are going to be able to pressure them out, either DPS or supports. I kind of like Ana more for our comp, somewhat for that reason, or whatchamacallit, or we can try and out-rotate them and play from weird places like here and try and flank them or something. Extension. So we're chilling. And we have every right to chill. Nice nade block. If this is ever happening constantly, just feel free to let your players know that they stand behind your shield when they don't want to die and get their heads popped off. Let's see. Probably not pressing tab at this point, and I wouldn't either, but they made a switch from Ashe to Reaper, and Mercy to Lucia. So yeah, now that their Widow's dead, weirdly, we can sort of move in. The only thing really stopping us, or at least in my interpretation as a support player, and a backliner generally, is that I don't want to peek and get domed by Widow. That's just not something that I want to happen, because it's a long, long way back, and these guys have a closer spawn than we do. So, if I were to, say, turn this corner now and get domed by the Widow up there, that would be very, very bad for me. So that's sort of the thing that's holding your squishies back from pushing with you if they're not directly on top of you. So Widow is sort of the constraint in this comp. She's going to be twisting our arm a lot of the time. She dies, so that means we literally have free reign to go in. And in general, at least. And yeah, like, these are some good things to think about. Like, what are some conditions to be able to go in or to do what our composition wants to do? Because now, we're sort of rushing them down, or we can rush them down a little bit. Doesn't look like your team is on the same page entirely. They want to move, but they don't really want to move because they're hesitant about snipers. And they have every right to be, but Widow just died. And we can be a little bit more aggressive and brazen with this. So yeah, now we're trying to close the distance, be a rushdown, sort of comp. There's bubble. Ryan just gets eaten. Zarya takes an off angle. I think a little too much swinging. Swinging, and you're going to be taking a lot of poke damage in general. So yeah. Yeah, that's just you do that, and Zarya off angles and not unexpected. Just have a little bit of restraint. Instead of moving yourself physically forward, say to your team, let's push, and then they can sort of push forward for you. Because I feel like what's sort of happening here is like, a lot of the times main tanks in their communication can be sort of like the handle to a scissor. Because for the rest of us fellows here who have all sorts of damage dealing abilities and crazy stuff, we want to make sure that we're okay, that the blade is going to be good into whatever we're doing. Obviously, you can't chop a rock with scissors or a tree in half. I mean, depends on what kind of scissors you got, but in general, when the handle lets the blade know that, hey, it's time to cut, then we can sort of cut. And this is a situation in which it's time to cut. If you have your team move forward, they can apply more uniform pressure down this sight line, and all you have to do is stand, hold your shield up, and kite damage. So instead of having to swing and try and do as much of the damage yourself, whatchamacallit, maybe your team can do a little bit more of that for you instead. In general, I think a more measured approach with your shield was needed here, though, just a little less swinging to kill him, and more swinging to get your chip damage in, and then let them take care of it. Because ultimately, it's not your job to kill everything, as fun as it sounds. It's more to provide your utility via presence and shielding and direction a lot of the time. Now we're both without main tanks. You get Tracer. We're pushing up into them very, very far and burning cooldowns to get out. And did a lot aggressive here. So that's a situation again where it's sort of like you can just tell your team to play slow, or you can try and tell your team to like, hey, let's come back a little, I'm not there, because they won't want to really peek anyway if they don't have a shield. They're playing mystery heroes with their DPS slot here. They went from Widow and Ashe to Tracer, Reaper, and now to Soldier. So, ladies and gentlemen, DPS is the most diverse category. Nice nade block, that was really nice. And now we're sort of getting wedged into the typical King's Row position. Most teams will want to leverage this angle and take this space over here so that they can push you guys uniformly out here. Kind of like a, like, you know the way a plunger would pull water from a toilet? It's kind of like the opposite way. Like if you were to flush a toilet, they're literally flushing you out of this one exit here. The way that you can sort of fight that is by spreading a little bit. It's pretty difficult and risky to spread sometimes if you don't know where you're going. In general, most people want to follow this right side and go to this corner, but that doesn't mean that you can't spread a little more thinly with your snipers around back left here. Just some food for thought. Then they probably just win with Nano. Okay, so just some food for thought as a support. That's why this is so important. So, yeah, that's why this is so important to be very measured with your life and your, yeah, mostly just your life. Like, living is probably the most important thing in Overwatch, and it sounds of like a very, like, of course living is important, but that means taking it with a grain of salt and really applying that. Like, when you're in this situation, so we sort of lost track of him, we killed him, and then we die super quick because Reaper's all close and stuff. I think, again, if we would have backed off, this would have been a lot better, because our Moira gets more ult charge off of healing more damage that we've taken. If we just back up and take a more measured approach to the fight, they're down a main tank. Chances are they probably won't be able to find a pick unless we are extremely out of position or something like that. So yeah, mostly just playing by the numbers, understanding a little bit that, like, you matter extremely a lot for the reason that, like, their Ana now is outvaluing our Moira by a bit with ult charge because of her healing type, which is a little bit more burst healy. Moira is a lot more sustained with her healing orbs and her resources, but because that means that generally, like, Moira wants you to stay alive and take damage to exist, either to exist at a lower health rather than top you up all the time, pretty much like an Ana might. So in this case, because we died, our Moira can't benefit from the healing we get, and so we get outpaced on our Nano, or outpaced on our support ultimate a little bit. Gray does a good job at the end. We're matching it, but the Ana will find more value as we have less resource on the Moira. Or I say as we have less resource available. Yeah, like an Ana might have been able to save this, probably. But that's a Moira thing. And yeah, now their Ana's just getting Nano. And we're just getting Cole. And now we have to make a decision whether or not we want to commit when it comes to this. So, I think this fight is is potentially winnable. Um, but it will be difficult because they have 6, we have 5, pretty decently dead. And we only have coal, which is tough. So they nano their Rhine, and they nano their Rhine. That's it. Let's see. Gotta move this along a little bit. I like to microanalyze every situation, but at the same time, it's tough to watch. Nice little fire strike, and now, no, I don't like that. Okay, so we decide to commit coal. So now, not ideal. This is not ideal. So look at this position. That's pretty nice from them. I think I like that a little bit. So they've effectively nullified a 1 ultimate with Noon. That LOS wasn't going away, and I'll give it a half with Moira's Coalescence because that'll still be waiting for them. So we push Ryan, and they just hug around the corner. I don't think to avoid situations like this where we're over ulting, especially when it gets outplayed simply by positioning. No cooldowns were exchanged here, besides maybe a bubble. For 2 ultimates. So, in order to stop this, we should probably be very, 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 very measured with our ultimates and basically just coming up with a 1 ult plan. Start with 1, and then as we get them, or as we decide to commit, then we'll ask the player who gets the ultimate, will be like, hey, could we use this if they see an opportunity? And the core of our team will say yes or no. Which is generally sometimes the main thing, impression. Yeah, just swinging out in the open. So a thing to consider is like, there's got to be a reason for your position a lot of the time. This is something I really, really encourage, like during self-reviews too, is think about the reasons behind your positioning. And you can do this for anybody too, but this line of thinking is going to reduce a lot of this standing in the middle of the lanes with few places to escape within a reasonable distance. Like, this is going to take some time on Reinhardt to reach here. It's going to take some time to reach this corner. It's going to take some time to reach the next corner. But if you had been just playing this corner, then you can LOS it instantly, pretty much. So yeah, thinking about sort of the positions that we take. Here's an interesting example, just to nitpick. The reason for this position is trying to set up a flashbang of some sort onto the tank. Is this good? It depends. It would be funny if you guys would do some sort of flash shatter combination or something like that. So he rolls off the high ground, stunned, and then a shatter happens, and it's very funny. Fortunately, it's mistimed, and it's too early or just uncommunicated, and we can't follow up on it. And he has to waste both his cooldowns to get out, which is... Reinhardt lost 200, like maybe half his HP that he's going to get back anyway, and we wasted 2 Kree cooldowns on it. So now we commit. So this is a good position right now. You've taken this corner, so you'll want your team to stick to the right so that they can minimize taking damage from far out positions like this. So yeah, this is a good position. I like holding this corner. Corners are a man's best friend in Overwatch. So suddenly they use the corner on you guys. And you can see how difficult it is to work with. And then we were just caught swinging too much. And fortunately they decide to donate Ooh. Oh. Oh boy. That's an interesting fight. Just for the reason that so much of this could have been avoided. The Cole was the ult that we wanted to use, the prime one, the only one. These guys, all they need to do is heal amp and go behind a wall. Then we use Noon, which is too much. So then we're swinging, we get anti, we back up a little bit. Did your shield break? No. You're swinging at the soldier. Yeah, swinging at the soldier. In general, you're not gonna die to him. If you're not gonna die to him, I think you probably don't have to regard him and actively look at him as much besides just using your peripheral. I'm not a Ryan player and I don't very much know the Ryan v Ryan from a tank's perspective, but I'd imagine you'd want to keep your eyes on him as much as possible and let your team focus about these freaks on the right side. Because that little, just the teeny little lapse in focus on the Reinhardt, this is what happens. So they trade Shatter, so we've got 2 ultimates for 1. So Cole and Noon for 1 Shatter. And then they Visor. So now we're even, I guess. And then you Shatter, get 2 of them, and Lucio beats. And so basically you both traded Shatter, a low to medium impact ultimate in my mind in these comps, just because it's not consistent. It's not something that's going to kill you like a Grav Dragon, and it's not a support ult that's super impactful like Beat. You traded for their Beat, you traded Coalescence for their Beat, which is pretty big for them because the only other support ult they have is Nano, and that's not going to do much for them defensively, as much as a Beat might. And then we traded our Noon for their Visor, which is, I mean, whatever, right? Like, I think those are both low impact ultimates in this in these compositions, at least comparable. Low to medium, I guess I'll give them to Shatter. You have to be caught out for a Noon to work, and the same for Visor, stuff like that. No, somebody help Gray. Wait, never mind. She can make it. She wins. Okay, so they have pushed up a lot. And a thing to identify here is this sort of commonality too, is that the Ana is sitting on cart. This means that unless their team backs up, currently they have 2 walls or 2 corners to get to before they get in line up side of their Ana. So in general, an approach to take this fight might be to try and push them back from this right side, so try and keep them from right side so that they won't try and spread over here to your deep right, which is always ugly and uncomfortable, because spreading there can be devastating if we're unaware. Try and keep them over to the left by sticking right. And then once we have them over to the left, this is a decent dragon spot. Just pressing Q and looking at our ultimates as well. Let's see. So okay, so something I'm seeing is sort of not shielding with much of a purpose, I don't think. So my spiel with this is like, if we're gonna shield, so shielding is kind of an interesting fun thing on Reinhardt, and I'm sure you know even more than I do. Like, as a support, I just know that whenever Reinhardt lowers his shield, he is loosening the faucet and letting in the water of potential damage into our thing. It's like if you had a sink that sometimes put out like sea urchins, and you're washing your hands and you're hoping that there's not going to be a couple sea urchins that fall out and poke you. Like, that's kind of like what it is. And he closes the faucet by shielding. Now, of course, in that example, that's a bad example because it makes it seem like damage is sort of random. But we can control where the damage is sort of coming from with positioning. Over here, we're not taking any damage. Over here, we're not taking any damage, or any primary damage like their soldier and all that, because of walls. That's very, very helpful. But here we're taking a lot of damage, and this is sort of like the spigot, so to speak, the faucet. Pain. because we're dead center in front of everybody. So in situations like this, we want to shield with an objective. You have to be assertive in conserving your resource and say, okay, I'm going to shield, let's push, or let's move forward. And with that, that clears things up tenfold, honestly. Because then we don't have to worry about having super low shield and then having to drop it and opening the faucet of damage that we see here. Like we got Soldier and Fire Strike and Hive Charge Zarya. It's a big pain in the butt. And our shield is already so low and we're at the corner. A big thing too is to let your team know that your shield is low and that you need to recharge. And this is unlucky. So that's 3 ultimates from us. And yes, we did save the fight. Please win the fight. So yeah, we invested 3 ultimates, which is kind of a pain. Again, we just sort of panicked. Something that I want us to understand is that ultimates are not band-aids. They are goals. They're a lot of the times conditions to be met a lot of the time. And I say a lot of the time because it's sometimes we have situations like that where we sort of dump 3. Like Grav was meant to group them together so we could follow up more easily. Then we dragoned, but we also cold before that, and somehow I doubt that much of that was was called for. Because we sort of have to do one or the other in my mind in order to play somewhat efficiently. So yeah, mostly when I speak from ult economy and stuff, I speak from a position of somebody who wants to maintain it and whatchamacallit, be as efficient as possible. So they Nano Reaper, they're gonna try and Death Blossom rush us here. Just a second too late. Oh no, that sucks. That's tough. One thing I think though is that we didn't need to be up top. If we had flash on the ground, that might help us a little. I understand that we were trying to go for a pick in the back, but I don't think it's gonna work when they're all grouped up like that together. It'd be easier to just try and use your Noon to zone this ultimate from main. But that's just me. So this fight is probably not winnable. They've used 2 ults. We've also traded Beat and now Noon for it, so I guess we're even now. Okay, last point. Somehow managed to turn 4 minutes into like an hour, it feels like. My goodness, I'm sorry. In any case though, so thinking about our position here, we need a place to be. Probably corners work best, so let's start here. So we start here. Let's say the next corner we want to move to, would it be here? Probably not. We're very exposed to this sight line, so maybe let's change that to here instead. But let's just say our current position is here. Our goal that we want to get to is here. That's fair. Their Rhine is going to be isolated from their team and potentially vulnerable, but he does have Shatter, so maybe he's looking for that bait. Just know that. Know sort of, not just your positioning, but a basic understanding of their positioning and why that might be. Yeah, it looks like Nano is just clutching these guys out fights. We're charging a pole fast too, but the thing is, they're just finding more value to Nano. And see here, we're not shielding with a purpose. We're not shielding to take the corner or take the initiative. Like, this is a Visor. We don't have to honor this because Visor is kind of sucky, honestly. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this, but I guess it's all in the past, you know? What are you gonna do? So trading a Visor, which is Soldier's hand relaxation button because he can do more damage when he chooses to aim, is yeah, when Soldier uses break time, his ultimate, we don't really have to trade that, so they were just taking advantage of the low shield. So here we're holding shield a little longer, and and we keep holding it up into the visor, you can stand to be a little bit more, I want to say, lax with the damage coming in. It hurts, trust me. But you can alleviate some of that with positioning. For example, if you stand just behind the cart, it becomes that much harder to hit you. And if anybody who is trying to hit you has to climb either on top of cart, where they can be seen by all members of your team, or to the right or left of the cart, where they can be seen by all members of your team. A lot of this is just sightline manipulation and in using corners well, so that you don't have to use your cover enhancing shield. Because again, your shield is sort of an enhancement to cover. It's not meant to be used as cover or anything like that, which is contrary to what a lot of people believe about shields and stuff like that. So yeah, now we've gotten to our goal. This is our nice little corner. We had a period in Flux where we were sort of not sure what to do around this cart, but we can either, think about it this way, we can either commit and go into them with their visor. Depends, like, I'll leave that to you to decide if that's a good idea and if that's what you want to do. We can stay here and hide behind cart and try and LOS it. Could be risky for your team if they don't know that that's what we're trying to do. Or we can back up. All of these options we have to communicate. And a lot of it is up to you guys as a core of a team, what you want to do when these ultimates happen. Because again, sort of like a lot of people put it on the main tank and on the Rhine because he is sort of the cover enhancement for the shield, or for the team. So like we're safe in this position because we have his shield. We would be safe backing around this corner because we have his shield. But when that shield goes down, it's time, and they start using visor to like pressure us back, we have to make a decision, decide whether we back because we don't have the shield and your squishies are vulnerable, or to stay, or to go forward, or any other choice that you could have made in this situation. It's my little pieces of support. So we have Coalescence. In general, when we have Coalescence, we want to wait and flush them out of a lane, so wait until they push up. We can give them a teeny little taste of cart progress. If we so desire, we just have to be careful of Grav, and then call them afterwards. So their Rhine shield is broken. It's risky that Rhine dies there. I don't know how I feel about using Shatter when the Rhine is dead, but if you do it, that's fine, I guess. You'd have to ask Topaz about that. I mean, it's not my ultimate, and I'm inclined to care, but at the same time, it's one that comes back somewhat soon. Let's see how we take this next fight. I want to see us playing from this corner. We're not a super peaky comp besides our Hanzo, who's comfortable from this range, maybe our Kree and our Lucio, so we should probably just give it to them a little bit, maybe. So there's our Grab Dragon, we bait out beat, Rhine dies again. They Nano Reaper because they think it's cute, and this is, you can see the indecision here. So Hebs sort of gets called out there just because he doesn't know where to go. We gotta stop using Noon and Cole together. We gotta stop that. That doesn't feel good at all. Now they're gonna continue zoning us by taking advantage of our weak shield. Yeah, in general, we suffered from a lack of direction this fight. When we see the Nano Reaper, we gotta decide what we're gonna do. You decide to go back, that's okay. But we gotta decide what we want to do and quickly, and preferably. Unfortunately, we've lost our ability to speed in and out at this point. We're using Coalescence, so we might as well push with it. So we gotta keep moving a little forward so we can maximize our Coalescence. Oh, there it goes. And yeah, it's just. It's a tough situation. I want to analyze how to win, but at the same time, that's not really what this is about. They grab from spawn, from where I can touch, no problem. Ah, so close. I think just a swing fire strike would have set you there. Spin to win these. It's tough.
Ready for battle.
So, yeah, just some vibes I'm getting overall. It seems that we're lacking some direction when it comes to mid-fight, which is, it's no secret that this has been something that we need to work on in an area of improvement. So, I think it just starts with somebody saying that somebody letting the other people know how comfortable they are with the situation. That's how I started sort of shot calling to a basic degree, I guess, as a support. Is just like me being like, hey, like I'm pretty sure their Ryan is up resources, or they like their team is going to enter this fight with more ultimates than ours. Like just pressing tab and seeing how much they've been doing. I also have a feeling that like in say in those situations on the advisor, my first inclination is like, hey, let's probably back, like let's choose a corner and hide somewhere, um or just back as a team, because like I don't want to be there. Like my thought is I'm extremely discomfortable with standing in front of the man who doesn't have to aim and fires his gun. um this might be the only time in the scrim that he actually hits you, you never know. But yeah, whatchamacallit, it's it's just a judgment call at the end of the day. Like I don't want to be here, so I want to tell that to my team. What does that mean for my team? That means that we should back up. So the call goes from the visor, I don't like it, to let's back up. And it takes time to get there, just translating those sort of feelings and making those judgments of the fight. But it's very doable. It's like you guys do it in VOD review all the time, and you guys let me know how you're feeling in fights all the time, because I ask sometimes, and I should ask more. But yeah, like the feelings and the vibes behind the fight are a big part of it.
Ready for battle.
Assessing inability stuff. Or we're ready. Oh,
3,
cool.
2, 1.
So let's think about shielding with an objective. So what the comp we've got is, now that we have a Reaper, now this is a very fun little brawly comp and stuff like that. We don't really, maybe our Hanzo can off angle and flank and stuff like that, and maybe our Zarya can do it softly, but we can walk towards and or on them. We don't know what the enemy's team composition is yet, so let's just path out some places that we want to be. First thing, we want to peek this corner, more than likely. Just see what they have, see what's up. Of course, always being cautious, checking around here and stuff, looking around if you don't know where something is. Then we'll have to decide. Do we want to go hotel, maybe? 'Cause that's fun. Or do we want to go around the statue and far right side, or do we want to walk it down main? And that's entirely up to you. There's approaches that are approaches of varying effectiveness into their team composition, whatever it is. So we do get this nice first corner. One thing we gotta do is like be like more together so that doesn't happen. And what I mean by that is literally saying like something Topaz does that I like is when he'll say like, he does this on Orisa sometimes, and he'll do it on Rhine too. He'll say like going in, or before he enters a sightline, he'll say going in or shield going down in 3, 2, 1 or something like that. But he gives me a heads up that he's gonna peek the corner, and when I hear him doing that and I'm not ready, I can just say no and he'll wait a second. Like just that's that slight interaction between man and machine allows us to survive much more. Ultimately, our team wasn't ready to peek into this. You end up having to hold your shield out longer because of that, and we end up sort of already losing the shield war because of that. We're already at half shield health, because we had to wait and hold our shield up for longer. So already forced out some resources. This isn't sustainable. So the thing that strikes me about this composition, we have had plenty of time to look at it by now. They have a soldier, mid-range pressure, good at shield sometimes, good at off-angling. They have Echo, who is a tank buster in the truest sense of the word. My god, will she kill you? So what this tells me is we want to minimize the time of the fight. Our Reaper wants to kill things fast. For that matter, so do you and your Zarya. So that's probably what our comp is going to be doing. We want to kill things fast. So you guys as a trio, maybe Lucio if he was alive, and Moira will stand around, stand behind cover, and jump into them. Like like feeding, but not feeding entirely. There's a fine line between feeding and doing what this comp wants to do, and we've got to find that balance. While our Hanzo sort of takes off angle. End that statement. What we don't want to do is stand here main, because the longer the engagement goes, their soldier's really good at this distance. Our Reaper isn't. Their Echo's really good into this distance. Our Hanzo is. So even though those two are okay, we're still losing out on damage on our DPS's front with the Reaper versus the soldier. And as well, Moira's a big sustain healer and stuff like that, but she's only got so much resource. So the longer a fight goes on, she's gonna have less to give, and we're already using a bit to keep you up here. So we need to not stand around, we need more... whatchamacallit. Like, look, he just dropped his shield, but he also dropped you too. Like, that's what their comp wants to do. He can trade a shield and a lot of his damage to let his team poke for him and do the damage that he needs to do in the shield damage. Us, we can't afford to do that because that's not what our comp wants to do anymore. With the Reaper, we want flesh. We want to rip and tear, and quickly, before they do anything about it. So, just keep that in mind. This fight isn't unwinnable. No, it is. But yeah, we have to consider these things. I think my thing as a Lucio player is providing more initiative and stuff like that, and calling engages as well. Like, that's the next step. So first we know where we want to path. Next, we sort of look at our team comps and decide sort of what's happening. Like, obviously you won't be calculating these things in the moment. A lot of the time that's going to be on your supports or your supports doing, just to be thinking about like, man, our poor Ryan's getting battered. Why? But understanding these things is really big, at least even in hindsight. Thankfully with VOD reviews, hindsight can become foresight. We're probably switching to a soldier of our own. Not a bad idea. I mean, I guess I understand why that might be desirable. Yeah. So we're just gonna want to play. So this is a little better into the style that you want to play, which is that sort of pokey brawl style. Like, it's sort of a rushdown, a little bit. Well, it's sort of a brawl, more of a rushdown. We want to close that distance and get our friends into a position where they can pop off. And we're doing that well enough. We're losing a little bit of shields here. Nice coal, that's huge. It looks like we are losing out on just enough sustained. Winnable. This is winnable. If we dragon, this is winnable. Please, dragon. Just do it. There we go. There's no more entering this point. We have closed the door for at least 2 ticks. Okay, but we're overextending without a Rhine shield. Don't do it. Okay, now we just don't let them in. Let's not spend bullets. They grab us, whatever. Well, not bad. Well, if Grey one, it'll charge. That's some good stuff here. That's weird. Yeah, look at this guy playing his corners. Look at that. So this guy started over here, and then you guys came around the corner. And now he's in a pickle. Because now, you guys are past the corner. You've evolved. You don't need the corner anymore. So now you can just eat him. Presumably. Let's hope he doesn't slam. Oh, he does the worst thing. And we're just being really, really aggressive. I don't know that there's a... I mean, because they have both healers alive, it's going to be really hard to get a pick. So we have to focus the healers first and then the Zarya. But at this point, we've already earned so much cart progress. Like, right now, we should be focused on keeping 3 on the cart. We already know that we're going to have ults, and this next engagement is going to be a big, big, bloody one. So we gotta be ready to maximize that by maximizing our cart progress and decreasing that sort of risk, because they're gonna want to contest. Okay, we set the tempo with our grab. They nano visor, which is kind of poor into this. And you've gone crazy swinging. You sort of lost your chill there. Remember about cover. Remember about the important things. Just winning a little less directly. And that's a tough thing. Oh god, that's a tough thing. That brings me back to so many memories of playing Brig or learning Brig in the main support position. Because being a main support is so much about communication and how you gel with the team and what you sort of provide, not just on a communicative level, but from an understanding of the game, what you tell, what you understand, and how that influences the fight. That's like a main support's bread and butter. And they're not a flex support. They're not going to be your Jonax, your Annas, the Sleeplanders, the Volley head poppers, like, you know, the Moira Coalescence 6Kers or anything like that. That's just not exactly what they're meant to do a lot of the time, although it's possible. A lot of the time what you have to do in these situations, and on everybody, if you're having a bad night, let your team carry you. Just don't go for things that are so risky. Stay focused on your role. So that's something that got me in thinking and stuff like that, was looking at my own thing and was like, what should I be doing? Where should I be ideally? I'm trying to make plays too much and it's not vibing with my team. So maybe if I just play a little bit more back, then I can live longer. And then I play more back and I live a little longer, but I still don't know what to do. So then I start thinking and VOD reviewing and fine-tuning more. And that more is a really, really huge part of that equation, because then you start getting an identity of what you want to do and understanding your role to fantastic detail. And I think just swinging a little too much there, trying to do a little too much work, writing a blank check with your position versus your health, was a bit risky to say the least. Because you were also out of shield and stuff like that too. Again, it's also on your team to clue you in on this, and like it's also on you to sort of communicate that. So yeah, something I ask a lot when we brawl too is forwards or backwards. Do we want to go in or do we want to go out? There's a lot more nuance to it than that normally, but this is my sort of scratch and sniff, sort of instant way of getting you guys to come to this decision that I wanted you to make here. If your team had known you wanted to go that in, they would have gone that in and committed even more ults and stuff like that, like probably even a visor because they don't have a main tank anymore. That's an ideal situation for it, right? But that's sort of at your fingertips. We didn't go for that because we weren't all on the same page. So while you were aggressing, everybody else was pushing cart and staying behind and stuff like that. We either need in or out a lot of the time here. Wow, clone with the bombs. That guy just got honestly destroyed. Let's see. I smell a shatter. Look at this guy. This guy isn't shielding with a purpose. He doesn't know where to stand on this point. An answer to this is usually right here on the right side. No, it's tough. Yeah, now this guy is at a major shield disadvantage. Now he's gonna start running a blank check looking for shatter. If we use shatter, oh, that's 4 ults. 4 ults, all gone. No need to... We need to decide what we're doing. Oh. Yeah. That's what we get for splitting up. That's another split second. Like, see how quickly it happens. Look at the decisions happen. Not only in spending 4 expensive ults. Like, I mean, sure they beated, sure they copied, sure they grabbed. But at the same time, like, should... Yeah, as quickly as this happens. So we use a dragon. Reinhardt starts going to the right side. Everybody's still there on the left. So you saw him shielding. Oh, you wanted to counter pin. You wanted to counter pin, I see. Okay, yeah. If you were looking to counter pin, which I think you were, that would have been a good idea. I actually really like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't end up going well. It just ends up missing and then do what echoes do best. Okay. An ambitious fight, honestly, not the worst fight ever. I know we close this out, probably. Yeah, we do. Mathematically. So, very cute. This guy's using his shield. He's trying to keep it flat against the wall and also use his camera to see when you are, or when you're rounding the corner, so that you walk around the corner with your shield down and get shattered, and it's very funny, and oh, teehee. Doesn't work like that. So, again, think about your goals. We're sort of swinging wide here. We're standing in the middle of a lane. We don't have a lot of shield. So we either stay behind this corner or we go over here. And over here is risky because you're at the risk of over this little side room over here. And you may not come here with a lot of shield if you use it to cross. But this is where we're gonna... Oh. Want a shield. They just choose to run at us with nano again. Boring. Let's see. So, let's see. So, they just get grab dragon and lose. Lucky. Just, again, be thinking about... Jesus, no. Okay. Okay, we win off of that, I'm guessing. But, oh yeah. So, yeah. My thing is probably just being very, like... I think VOD reviewing yourself is a really, really good thing to do a lot of the times, because even if you are, it's tough call to make, you know? When you teach yourself anything, you risk learning it, interpreting it, or learning it wrong, or in a wrong way, or something like that. And that's what we fear a lot of the time, and that's why people confide in us coaches for like so deeply sometimes. But I think VOD reviewing yourself here is really good when you're keeping in mind, when am I sort of like zoning out in the fight? When am I just going through the motions and swinging just to swing? Versus having an intention behind what I'm doing. So I think that's a really big thing. On this account, did a couple good wins here. This was a funny one on Hollywood that Taz and I did.
Welcome to Hollywood.
And we went through some decisions in our head.
Ready for battle.
Just doing our thing.
Ready for battle.
Yeah, let's watch this guy's Ryan. So he's just looking, seeing the team comp. Notice he's not shielding yet. He doesn't really need to, because there's not really anybody who he sees that can take us out. Like if anybody gets hooked, they get bubbled. It's like a 1-to-1 sort of thing. They hook our Zarya and lose. We land a nade. We can sort of walk in, now there are no more tanks. So he goes to this next corner to minimize LOS. He doesn't want to stand in the middle of the lane to take Torb Poke, or BAP, or feed Doomfist, or anything like that. Sticking nice and close to the corner. There's an interesting little scenario here in which I'm over here, and I can't see him anymore. So I'm letting him know, play careful, because I can't see you. And I'm calling Torb top as well. He's pretty deep on the point, forcing me to peek pretty deep out here. It's no problem though, because I know that nobody, it'd take too long for them to come all this way, put me in danger. And I hear the Doomfist, that's my cue to come back. And meanwhile, he's just staying on point and holding the space that he's taken.
Objective lost.
So overall,
Stop the payload.
it's positions and why we swing and stuff like that can be very deliberate. Or at least I think in my mind they should be. Like thinking about the positions and stuff like that, it doesn't have to be something you think about live, because I'm not in a game going, or I'm not usually in a game, especially if you're tank, going, I should be here because of this, I should be here because of this, what is my evaluation on this and stuff like that, what are my thoughts on this position. It just doesn't happen that way. You get better at it over time, and it takes time to build that and stuff through review. Let's see, so yeah, like Topaz is just hugging the left corner here, moving over to the right to peel for me just in case I need it, which is very kind. And I tell him the other Rhine has found his way in here and he just loses because he gets snated. And now that we're back main again, let's see where he sort of goes. He gets mad at the Baptiste and solo shatters and moves on ahead. I say I want to take high ground, he says okay. So yeah, let's see this. So he's getting rushed on a little bit. I ask if he wants nano as he's getting, as the enemy commit more onto him. So that's something interesting too, is know how he only asks, or I only give nano when he doesn't have bubble and the enemy is actively engaging on him. So Hog has walked quite a bit into our team in order to try and kill him. And so is the Rhine for that matter, and so is the Doomfist for that matter. Because they're doing all of this just to kill him, I can afford to nano him, give him the boosted damage, and let him stomp all over the back line and stuff like that. Yeah, this Rhine actually got dominated. It was really tough to watch. But from a support perspective, you can see how our Rhines could sort of be interacting. Topaz walks around with the confidence that I can keep him up, and I walk around with the confidence that he can keep me safe. This is how it should be for all members of our team, and I understand that it's hard to do that with 6 people. It's a lot easier to do that with a duo, and even then it's tough to maintain that all the time, but that's our sort of code of secrecy, you know? It's just what happens. I nano him. I've invested nade, nano, sleep dart, my ultimate and all my cooldowns into making sure he gets the value that he does. He blocks shatter, he lands shatter, it all irons out in the end. Enough because of the stupid cheese patch, lava patch that kept getting me. Last point, let's see over here. I was telling him we might have close spawners. And that's perfectly fine because we're all over here. We have a high charge Zarya. And to play this for long. So yeah, we killed the close spawners.
Into the iris.
And now, because we have trance, look how he goes in. He knows he can survive a lot of the damage with the trance, so he can continue to go in and stuff like that. Like, this is uncalled for. This is a quick play game, by the way. The only 2 of us are in a group. Both of our tanks are able to recognize that, like, hey, we can push with trance. We can continue to be aggressive. This might be a tough position to get out of, just because if they have ultimates or if they choose to invest them, you might be in a bad way. But if we keep on being aggressive and keep on killing them before they can get anything done, it just irons out that way that that's something we can do. Zarya sort of overcommits to this idea and dies for it. Tries to jump shatter, unfortunately gets punched out of it. That sucks. Let's see. Yeah, like overall, like there's a lot of deliberation Like, look how he can walk and swing with his shield down with the confidence that certain things are gonna happen, just because he's used to it. I think that's an exception, but thankfully a lot of us are in positions where that doesn't really affect us too bad. Yeah, once again I can nano him and proceed with the confidence that he he can get it done. And our tanks just apply insane damage to them. Oh, it's rough. Just a quick game that we played and stuff like that, but you can just see sort of the like, looking back, you can even pause and mute the commentary and stuff like that, and just think about what he's thinking about in these positions and stuff like that. Like, why would he want to be here? What's up with that? You know? Again, like, even though we're coaches and stuff like that, we are far from perfect. Even every player makes mistakes and misjudgments and things like that, and it's important to know that at some of the time, like, with the information we're working with, sometimes certain choices might be better. But this is like totally, I don't know, it's just confirms it as like a learning environment and stuff. It's cool to see how people sort of manipulate this and manipulate the game and stuff. So in general for you, just being more aware of yourself, how valuable you are for one, and what that means. So you mean so much to a team as a Reinhardt and as a main tank. You are a lot of the times a voice of reason for the team. I know that, and they listen to you for leadership and stuff like that. If you wanted to, I think you could really like get used to calling like aggression and stuff like that. And even if it's the wrong call, and I say this a million times, but like, just calling to be aggressive and stuff like that can find you immense value, and from that you might call to be aggressive and then die from it, and you'll now know you have a value. Like, hey, why did I die from being aggressive here? Let's analyze it, work through it together, and now you know some situations to be a little less aggressive in. You get more informed of the game. This is your game sense building, and once your game sense is building and those decisions are being made more quickly and stuff like that, you become a freak of nature. Like, that's really all there is to it, I think. Just increasing the information that you gain from a game and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, yeah, making deliberate decisions about where you want to be. Making deliberate decisions about what you want your team to do with you. And this can be decided on as a team. Like, I think something would be nice in VOD review is for you to bring up like asking the team, like, did we want to be more aggressive with this, or like, could we have been more aggressive with this? How are you guys feeling? To gauge them and stuff like that. Because if they sense that you want to be aggressive, they'll humor that. They want to be aggressive too. In any case, so I think that's all I have for now. So thank you for watching. Let's see how long it took. Hour and 3 minutes for a 15-minute game. Could stand to do better, but insight is always spewing, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm just glad I can get VOD review again. But in any case, thanks again for watching.